over the years, I feel like I've moved away from wanting a specific thing. I used to be like, oh, we're all waiting for X game. We'll get an update at this particular show. Whereas now, that just doesn't happen, mainly because the industry's on fire. So I quite like the variety of what you get and the variety of different genres and production budgets.
It's interesting you say variety.
I knew that would hook you in.
I genuinely, looking at this state of play, I was like, we've got 5 games here. They all involve someone with a sword and some vaguely translated Japanese dialogue about the reckoning and big monsters. And to be honest, Scott, I'm so fed up with it.
Go off, King.
I think there was like, was it how many weeks ago was it we had an Untitled Banter podcast where I kind of went in on the discussion of like, I feel like video games are looking at other video games to create video games and not looking at like broader literature and like other stuff to galvanize and spark a new idea, because it just feels like it's a snake eating its tail constantly. How many years have we gotten something vaguely Stellar Blade-esque? I don't know if Stellar Blade was like last year, but it's like everything feels like it's I know it's great seeing hack and slash come back. I'm cool with that. But it just feels like the way that game dev cycles are going, the way that trends and the way we're getting more precise with our algorithmic and kind of reactive business decisions, we're kind of just settling on a couple of trends all the time.
I was going to say,
and it's so boring. It does my head in.
Oh, I thought the variety of what was there was awesome, even though there is definitely a through line of the return of hack and slash stuff, kind of like the post-Soulsian boom. And it's like games like Lost Soul Aside, Hell Is Us, Tides of Annihilation. Tides of Annihilation might as well be called like Spiffing Blade. It's just London version of Stellar Blade. But I'm totally there for that stuff. But it is interesting that something like Mind's Eye stands out just because it has driving and third-person shooting. We never get that anymore, whereas we used to.
That looks fun. I think, it's kind of got like a Universal Soldier kind of vibe to it, and maybe a little bit of Terminator 2. I don't know. Like that to me, I'm interested in because it's obviously Mr. Benzies. And,
well, that's...
I think it's always, kind of case by case. I'm similar to you in that I never go into one of these shows expecting something or wanting one specific thing, and if I don't get it, like it's, a complete write-off. But I always like to be surprised, and even though I thought this was a really good state of play and I was never bored, I do err on the side of Ewan's point there about, if you are not a fan of third-person melee-based action games, there were some things there maybe for you, but it was very much stacked towards that kind of gameplay, right?
Oh, hell yeah, for the octopus.
There's a nice first-person shooter towards the end called Metal Eden, I think, that looked nice, but by and large, it was the kind of Stellar Blade lights almost, which is kind of crazy considering that game is only a year old. And it's weird, man, because like don't really have notes for this showcase, but I wouldn't go as far as you, Scott, to be like, I loved it, I think it's amazing. I don't understand why people are annoyed, because for me, it didn't have that one moment where I thought, oh, that's the game. My game of the show was Hell Is Us.
Yes.
I got that right?
From the Deus Ex art director.
But that had already been announced, and I was already excited for that. So that was my game of the show for the last showcase. And I think, as much as we talk about, do they need the first-party games there? Did we need an update from Wolverine? I do think it's fair to expect that. Sony does these state of plays so rarely now, when we haven't had a major update on some of these games for a long, long time, and some of them are slated for 2025. I think it's fair to go into a state of play and expect to hear an update on Ghost of Yotei, which is out in this calendar year,
True.
right? And I can understand being a bit frustrated and not seeing that, because that's why those first parties they're why you buy a PlayStation 5 for a lot of people. So to not have those when you know they're cooking, and to not even get an update that says, look, we're not going to talk about it now, but in a few months, we'll get to it. I think they made the right decision announcing the Death Stranding 2 South by Southwest showcase that they're doing in March, to be like, look, it's probably not going to be here. We're going to talk about it then.
They put the Astrobot levels out the day after as well. Why wasn't that part of your thing?
What event did the Ghost of Yotei trailer get revealed at, or was that just a random drop?
It was Summer Game Fest?
I thought it was the last state of play. It was the last state, like,
the end of
last year. So it's like, I agree with you, Josh. Like, it's not a thing of like, it needed to be there for this to work, but it feels like kind of just like a pointless Sideshow Bob stepping on rakes moment, where it's like, you've told everyone this game is here, you've given them the teaser, and this is your premiere announcement event, and you're not going to acknowledge it. And it just feels a little bit naive or short-sighted or a little bit kind of like scatterbrained, because I feel like even though I like you guys, I don't understand the insatiable need for, if this game does not show up, it's a trash event or whatever. But certainly, I don't think they do themselves any favors when it's a case of like, we've just announced a sequel to one of the most lauded PlayStation exclusives of the last 10 years, and it's not going to be at this big 40-minute event. It feels very peculiar in that sense. And in regards to the last events that really, really were like, wow. So obviously, Ghost of Yotei being revealed at the last State of Play, that was amazing for me. That made that for me. But I have to go back to 2021 at like a PlayStation showcase for when they revealed. That was the one where we got Marvel's Wolverine announcement, wasn't it?
Right,
and then we got, was it KOTOR, the remake that got announced? And then was Wonder Woman there, or was that the Video Game Awards?
Probably the Game Awards for Wonder Woman, yeah.
But I remember that 2021 one being like, okay, this feels like we've got momentum. We're building into the next like huge AAA kind of spaces. And it felt like there was some variety there, whereas for the past few years, it just feels like we're occupying the same genre niches, which is not going to get me hyped.
I do think overall for the industry, things like the farming simulator boom, the Stardew Valley boom, the cozy game boom is everywhere from the third parties. But I just thought for this particular thing, I thought the variety of what was there did stand out. And there's so many like fan wish fulfillment things. Like the Days Gone remaster was real after being rumored for so long.
I mean, that made me eye roll.
That was hilarious.
Oh my God.
But I get the double-edged sword of that, where people are like, you're going to remaster Days Gone, but not Bloodborne. And it's like, well, it's not that simple.
It just feels like it's the thing that's most frustrating about this, and I feel Josh Brown's heart shattering into a billion pieces here as a Days Gone truther. I think for me, it's a case of like, it feels like we're still stuck in the previous generation when I hear the words Days Gone remastered. Not Days, even if, to be fair, I would probably feel just as cynical if it was like Days Gone Director's Cut or Days Gone 1.5.
It's that approach because they're charging £10 for the upgrade.
But again, it just feels like, okay, well, even 10 years ago when we had like the PlayStation 4 in its zenith, and we had lots of great exclusives, Days Gone came out as a kind of like middling first-party exclusive that had a cult following but underperformed, and now we're already reaching back into that chest of drawers to try and move it. For me, it just speaks to the lack of volume and quality that has come from Sony the last few years.
I would if there wasn't such a weird cult classic groundswell around Days Gone. Like, that game was so flawed and is still so flawed, but there is just so much buzz around Days Gone where people just want more of it. So I quite liked Sony being like, fine,
Days Gone is the Jeb Bush of PlayStation exclusives. I'm sorry.
We didn't even enjoy going through it. Josh, like, when you finished it, you gave up gaming for like a month.
That's it, right? I was literally saying, I was popping big when I saw it. I was down in London, so I didn't watch the show, but I saw the Days Gone announcement when I got back to my hotel, and I was like, oh my God, they finally announced it. It's coming out in April. And
hold on.
My girlfriend turned to me and she said, you don't even like it? I was like, no, I do. She was like, you didn't enjoy playing it? I was like, no, I enjoyed playing a lot of it. It just sort of made me give up on the industry towards the end because it was too bloated.
So in many ways, it was like the perfect Big Mac.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got to quit burgers after this, but there's this solid 6 out of 10 piece.
Sometimes it's just what you need.
It's like when you get like one of those meal deals and you get like 4 burgers, maybe not 4, but like 2 burgers.
4 burgers, Jeremy.
Sometimes you get 4 burgers, and then you scram them all, and you think that was delicious, but I don't ever want to eat a burger ever again.
Too much takeout.
But no, I think Ewan's point there about Sony maybe being a bit naive, to me, that's incredibly relevant with these shows, because for me, I don't know, at least for me, who's in the weeds with this stuff, we do podcasts on it all the time, looking at the fine print, looking at what's on show, having my big calendar of stuff that's coming out this year. I look at the show and I'm like, wow, cool, a lot of new IPs, a lot of announcements for 2025 that are dropping in the first half of 2025. Good show. But I think a show is only as strong as like the optics of it and how well it's marketed, and I think that there is a naivety around Sony thinking they can push the likes of Days Gone Remastered when the narrative surrounding them, rightly or wrongly, is they have nothing but old games. You show off the PlayStation 5 Pro, you're showing it off with Spider-Man 2, you're showing it off with The Last of Us Part 2, you're getting The Last of Us Part 2 remastered, you're getting Horizon remastered, you're getting Days Gone remastered. Like, I can look at it and say, oh, but they've announced Intergalactic alongside it. They've announced Ghost of Yotei alongside
Tides of Annihilation and Saros.
But when the majority of what you're getting right now in terms of actual release dates and what they seem to be focusing on as much as those new games are the remasters, I can totally get it from that kind of like optics perspective of they seem like, I mean, how much is that line pushed of the PlayStation 5 has no games? And I could like yell until I'm red in the face and point towards the games, but you look at it and you do think, well, okay, they've got Spider-Man 2, they've got God of War Ragnarok. God of War Ragnarok's on PS4, Spider-Man 2, for as much as I enjoy it,
they've got Returnal.
It's not I don't know, it's not like this is why you need a PlayStation 5 to play.
No, they've really struggled to shift that overall. I think for me, for the Days Gone thing, like I said, I viewed it as just like for the fan base. Like if they'd ended on it, I would totally agree that they shouldn't be selling it and pushing it that much. But like I said, there's such a cult classic weird vibe on Days Gone. There has been for a good long while that I feel like that's just them testing the waters, like being like, here's a remaster. If this actually sells, we'll do more. But if not, oh my God, we tried.